Hello to one more episode with Dimitris and Hotelier with the accent. Are you ready to know what is happening on the HR department? Have you ever been fired? Have you ever been the procedure of disciplinary action? If not, you will know. If yes, you're gonna see yourself. And who is the best person to do this? With the HR manager.
Hi, Dimitri. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's a big pleasure having you.
It's a great pleasure to be here.
Everybody's wondering what is happening on the HR.
So, we don't only discipline people and fire them, so I hope that's very clear. Actually, that is the less pleasant side of HR.
But why everybody is afraid of the HR?
That's a really good question. I've asked myself that quite a few times. And it's true. Very often I would send for an employee, normally for something positive. I'm going to be promoting them or discussing training with them. And they come into the office a bit apprehensive. And I'm like, is everything okay? Is something wrong? And they're like, oh, I'm a bit afraid, did I do something wrong? Like, no, So I'm not really quite sure where that comes from. It might be the perception of HR traditionally. Okay.
Is it different now? Like, do you see something different on the HR comparison to the previous years?
So traditionally, HR was mainly administration. Okay, so employee documents, onboarding, registrations, terminations, contracts. The terminations, someone quits as well. They have
Now
to,
you know.
They have to be offboarded. Payroll, of course. And yes, unfortunately, disciplinary issues or employee relations issues if you have a trade union involved. So that is traditionally what HR used to be considered.
Going back to the
So why are people afraid of me?
yes.
Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. No. So basically,
what is the most common issue that the people are coming to you?
the most common issue, it's normally because we are very blessed to work in a very international organization.
Yes.
A lot of employees would come to me for assistance regarding their work permits, of course, the onboarding with their work permits, assisting them with paperwork. Nowadays, they have to do the blessed skills pass, so that's quite a difficult process for some of them, so supporting them. But then they would come to us for anything, any advice that they need, if they have an idea about something that they would like to implement to improve their work situation.
So arguments and fighting is not hot topic with a sense that
I think I'm very lucky in this organization. It's not.
okay.
Luckily, obviously, yes, of course, there would be some conflict resolution. Sometimes at my level, it's more when it's management conflict resolution, I need to be involved. Normally, when it is at staff level, the first point of contact tends to be the department head. If the department head would want support, or they feel that it should be escalated to HR, or they need advice about how it should be handled, and then we would get involved.
Also, I notice, okay, of course, in a smaller scale, the people that I see around me, also the disciplinary procedure is a bit reduced comparison to that the previous years.
Are you talking about this organization or your previous experience?
No,
I'm not quite sure.
I had work in hotels that
Okay.
it was very easy to go and stay to make the disciplinary meeting and then investigation and take the facts, take data, and then results and punishments or letting people go. But now I see that is a bit more relaxed, the whole thing.
I wouldn't say it's relaxed. I think that the way that we look at HR has changed. So as I was saying before, it was very administrative, and it was there as to ensure that discipline is being followed. Certain standards have relaxed, not in a bad way, in my opinion, but we talk about this a lot, that when I came into work in hotels, many years ago, the grooming standards were very different. So I remember, of course, and you will remember that you couldn't have visible piercings, any tattoos had to be covered.
I remember to be sent home because
Exactly.
at the time I was working in a restaurant, and when they were doing like this and they could
If you had like a
feel
little
something, it's like go home, save, and come back, and you had to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember this as well. So that has changed. because obviously like trends change, social outlooks towards, tattoos, piercing, facial hair, that has evolved. And employers and guests have become very, very, very open and accepting of this.
Something else that I'm sure you know in a hotel is like for me as a theater.
On stage, right? You're going on
Exactly.
stage. That's what
Doesn't
we always
matter.
say.
Yes, doesn't matter what is happening on the background. As soon as you go in front, you are in reception, in the restaurant, at the bar, you need to change. You need to be happy. You need to look smiley. And something that I'm sure you don't like is that, as I always say to my colleagues, if you don't feel to be there, so if you don't want to laugh, I'm not gonna force you to laugh.
But why wouldn't I like that?
Because I tell everyone, just go home. It's better to work understaffed than have someone not to be happy, not to want to be to the place that it is. And
No, I really get what you're saying. I mean, joking apart, like, yes, that presents a bit of a challenge for staffing, and maybe there's a concern that some people might take advantage of it. Like, I don't feel like working today, so can I go home? But it is, and there's a lot of research on this, it is quite emotionally exhausting to portray emotions that you don't actually feel. And it can be a form of what we call cognitive dissonance, especially because we are doing it long term. Like, you've been working in the hotel industry for 150 years. And sometimes we become so accustomed to always putting that face on. And very often we feel it. Like, if we like our work, we're having a good day and we feel good.
have you ever been to a staff member and say, listen, you cannot do reception?
I can't think of a particular instance when I said you can't do reception, but
not for the specific role, for a role that you see them and you're like,
this doesn't fit you.
Yes, let's do something else, or go home.
No, I'm struggling to think of a particular instance, but I know what you mean. So it's an employee with the right attitude, and they want to be there, but the job is not for them.
Yes.
I'm struggling to think of actually, yes. Actually, I have one. So I once had a member in my HR team. So he was actually a student, a hospitality student. And he was initially doing his training in FMB. And then, because he was international, rather than doing the year abroad, as they do with ITS, he had to do it in Malta. And he said, can I do it in HR with you guys? We said, yes, of course. We knew him. Within a few months, obviously, we had completed the training. It became very apparent that it was not for him. So we did have this conversation with him, and he agreed. Because normally employees will feel that the job is not for them. He felt the same. And then he asked, but can I please try accounts? Because I think that's more me. And it was. He spent years after his internship, he graduated. He spent years working in accounts, progressing in accounts. Somewhere along the line became very interested in IT. And last I heard, he's still working for that company in IT. So progression.
You changed the career of someone.
Progression was still given to him. Sometimes you have to try something to realize that it's not for you.
Talking about speaking with people, and especially when it's very
the difficult
conversations. For HR, what are the skills that you need to have or you need to develop in order to work in HR?
So we can go first for the knowledge that you have to have, which is obviously a very good understanding of employment law, an understanding of obviously payroll systems, the legislation that you're operating within, the relevant government authorities that you have to obviously liaise with. So in Malta, if it's Identity Malta, if it's Jobs Plus, if it's the DIAR, the tax department, and so on and so forth. That's the fun stuff, right?
No.
Absolutely. But I think it's very, very important to work in HR, to really be passionate about people, to really care about people, and to be able to explain yourself in a way that is that they can understand.
Actually, that I want to say that my big complaint, a bit of regret that I have is that when I was starting my career in hospitality, always I wanted to go to research and development especially training for the staff and etc. But you need to be organized also. You need to be very organized. You need to.
No, you do, but you need to be organized in anything that you do, and you are a very organized person in your own way.
Okay.
In your own way. So I think that's less important, but I would actually see you
Train
because
people.
yeah, and we have done quite a lot of
Yes,
training
yes.
together, haven't we?
Yes.
And that's something that you're very passionate about, and would see you being a good fit in HR because you genuinely care about people.
Okay, let's see the next steps of Dimitris. Maybe HR.
Let's forget digital transformation, go into HR. But no, but like whatever you do, obviously if you're managing people and you don't have to be an HR person, but if you have a team of people who report to you in some way or another, I think that it's so important that you have the ability to inspire your people, the ability to listen to them, to motivate them. You know, that hey, we have this challenge, like how are we going to overcome it together? And the ability to see the potential in people even when they don't see it themselves. And I think you have this.
Yes, but I'm sure you agree. Sometimes it's quite exhausting to be able to even to be a listener.
Yes. Yes, it can be.
And you need to be strong.
You do. So as you were saying, the skills you need to build up, that empathy but resilience is something which needs to be built up. I started working in HR when I was just 18, so obviously I didn't have any of that.
How many years you are in hospitality?
Secrets. But I was just 18, you know, I was a university student and I was working in a hotel already, and I said, okay, I like the hotel life, but I am more interested in long-term relationships. Whereas when you're working in operations, it's very transactional. You know, your guest is in the hotel for 2 days, or your guest is dining in the restaurant just for a dinner.
And even the colleagues that you are working with, you know,
Absolutely.
that is most of the times a next step to move to something more
Perhaps,
stable.
exactly. But so I had the opportunity then to, you know, spend the summer working in HR. And by sheer luck, because a lot of people in the department had resigned, they were like, right, you need to stay. Like, you're not going back to operations, you need to stay. Luck, it was sheer luck. But it is, yes, it's difficult, and yes, it is challenging to sometimes pass through the most difficult parts of people's lives with them, believe it or not, because we spoke about, you know, work challenges that they come with, and there's a lot of that, but that's the easy part. Those are generally the things we can fix, or we can support them through, we can mentor them through, but work challenges you can fix. But when someone has a bereavement in their family and they're telling you about it, or they've just found out that they're unwell, that's really not something that you can help much with apart from offer support.
And there is that the solutions, as you said, they are very limited of what you can do. How you can build a strong environment that's gonna support something like this?
In terms of empathy or in terms of resources?
Both, because I think it's not one side, like it's not one solution. You need to have the people, you need to have the good environment between the
Absolutely.
people.
So I think the culture of the organization plays a very big role in this. I couldn't agree with you more when you said, you know, the people around you, because it's very valuable when you have a kind of culture that employees who are experiencing something difficult, that they can come and talk to you about it. So it doesn't have to be me, again, it can be their supervisor, their line manager, their colleague, but having that closeness within the team that, you know, even if it's not something as extreme, it can just be as simple as you're having a bad day, that you know that you can find the support of your colleagues for that. And culture is built from the top. It's built from the top. It's modeled in the behaviors that we would like our employees to project. And then there's the reinforcement of those behaviors.
And now I want to go a bit of how the ethical part is coming to the HR.
Okay.
Because we did together some training, some
We did.
acknowledge days about to be different.
Yes, so I think for us as an organization, diversity is something which we hold very dear to our hearts. I think that's one of the first things that you and I actually clicked on.
Yes. It,
Because we both really
how is the industry?
how is the industry?
Yes.
The industry is super diverse. That is one of the things I love about this industry. I mean, in Malta particularly, I'm speaking about, it is so diverse. And the first thing that we think about, of course, is the cultural diversity, right? We're different
Exactly.
nationalities, different cultures. Yes, but there's so much more than that.
Like what?
Different life experiences, different levels of education, different ways that we process information, different abilities, different outlooks towards I don't know, life in general, you know. So it's not just about culture. Of course, culture does play a very big part in shaping our behaviors and the way that we think, of course, but it's all about, you know, even different ages. Like I see such an amazing difference in the way our younger colleagues think
They-
and act and behave as opposed to what we do.
And they want to participate.
I love that. I love that about them.
I see a lot with the new people that are coming, as you said before, in the industry. And always, as when I was working in front office, back office, doing supervisor, manager, and auditor, everything, I was teaching people how to do the tasks part.
Mhm.
And I was always saying, please don't just follow what I'm teaching you. Do what I'm doing,
Mhm.
and then trying to find it
Find your
to make,
way, like,
yes, to
yeah.
make it better,
Mhm.
faster.
Yeah.
Check in. If I teach you how to do a check in 5 minutes and you come and tell me, Dimitri, I did it in 3 minutes, a correct manager should say, okay, let's test it.
Mhm.
If it's better,
Let's
let's
do
go
it.
for it. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I haven't seen these for many years, but recently we have a lot of new colleagues that they join us, that they change things, they do them
Yeah.
better, and I'm very, very happy.
Okay, first of all, you're welcome for the recruitment traces. So I love the initiative that our younger colleagues show. And I think a lot of this is due to they see authority different to how we saw authority. So I remember being their age and being very apprehensive around senior management, whereas some of our girls would go and give a boardroom presentation, you know, in front of the directors and have it approved. And I am so in awe of them to be able to accomplish something like that, you know, at age 20, to actually be able to suggest, implement, and like go ahead with a new procedure, a new initiative. I think it's really, really amazing. So I admire their drive, I admire their passion, their initiative.
So well done to the HR job, bringing the correct people.
Yes, that's not easy to find the correct people, but when we find them, we like to look after them, yes.
Before you said about that one of the skills that someone needs to have is education in to work in HR, and because we have listeners that they want to go to the HR
Okay.
department and follow this career, what do you think is the bare minimum, and then what is the ideal?
So the bare minimum would be perhaps a diploma level in HR, particularly if it's covering basic, you know, HR legislation, and although you can do specialized courses on HR legislation as well, which is extremely, extremely recommended, especially since the legislation does change. So you need to be updated with anything new. And if you prefer the administrative side, some of the courses do cover payroll as well. If you want to progress to management and beyond, I would recommend a master's in HR. And they tend to have a specialization as well. So is it HR and training? Is it HR and performance management?
Okay,
So you could actually go into your specialization.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that you.
So mine is HR and training, my first master's, yeah.
How many masters you have?
One is complete. One is in progress.
Work in progress.
Work in progress.
And now, because we went back and
Yeah. Back
we escaped, yes. Tell me, when was the time that you fire someone on the spot?
on the spot. I don't have I ever fired someone on the spot.
Oh, you're from the good ones.
Um, I personally have never fired anyone on the spot that I can remember. If I have, please remind me. No, normally although sometimes it's considered better practice not to give a reason, I believe that you should make it clear to the person the reasons for dismissal, even if it is still during their probation period. Sometimes there are very serious cases that it's almost a pleasure, I have to say, as bad as it sounds, but if there are cases of...
When was the most
So things that
relief time that said, okay, this person stopped? Yes.
I can't give away too much, obviously. We're bound by confidentiality, of course. But when there are cases of discrimination, sexual harassment, bullying, or theft, I have to say there is a certain pleasure in handling those cases because maybe we'll have a bit of a sense of justice, right? There, of course, is always a very thorough investigation. You don't just take the report for the sake of the report, but you speak to the person alleging, you speak to any witnesses, see if there's any evidence as well of this.
And on this point, I want to say that, again, I think on every episode of my podcast, I am advising from the managers and the CEO and the directors what they should do. Okay. And one of the things is educate your staff.
Absolutely.
Educate your staff of not only about the job, but also all the issues around, as you said, about discrimination, about sexual harassment, about... They need to know because we grow up, especially previous generation, that go to work no matter what, don't lose your job.
Yeah.
And we had to close our eyes many times. People were shouting, people were swearing on us, people were be physical sometimes, and we were afraid to lose our job.
Yes.
How is the new generation now? You see a lot of new people coming and new blood.
The new generation of managers are millennial managers, if we may.
Yes.
I think that we don't want to be that way. No. So we've definitely moved away from the kind of autocratic approach, as you're saying, to just do it my way because I said so. And then certain negative behaviors, as you're saying, like shouting or being generally inappropriate. I feel like most people of the younger generation have moved away from that. A risk is that maybe we try to be too friendly with employees, in the sense that we always have to remember the importance of boundaries between management and employees, because it's not healthy for them to be too close to us anyway. It might be a bit confusing for them. So the boundaries are important, but the more mentoring approach, I think that we see this more. I think we challenge them more. I think we care more about their opinions as well. And
because they are coming with
great ideas, of course. I mean, they they study for the role, or they have a lot of access to media, which can give them ideas as well, or they're generally just like amazing and creative, and they just come up with great things. So I think that we are much more inclusive. Obviously not generalizing, because I've worked with incredible, mature managers, and I owe like everything I am to them. But I think we do try to be maybe more flexible as well. Maybe we are more tolerant of certain disciplinary issues if we don't think that they're...
Probably because we didn't like the previous way.
Yeah, maybe it's as simple as that.
We knew what we don't want to be.
We know what we don't want to be, but we shouldn't forget certain values that we learned in the past.
And we need to caring and pass it to the next.
Absolutely, and educate them, right?
As now about the accent.
Okay.
You are our first Maltese.
Yes.
So many questions here. Okay. How it is to work in an environment? You told me that you like that there are a lot of people around from different background. It was strange when you start your career. You had the same amount of foreigners working next to you?
No, the same amount, no, but it was very international. So I remember when I started, we used to, at the time, boast at the hotel that we had 27 different nationalities, and that was a lot.
Oh, okay.
By the time I left my previous hotel, I think we had like 50 different nationalities, because obviously it was a very big organization. There were about 500 people employed. So I only know how to work in an international organization, actually. And for me, obviously coming from Malta, very traditional. My friends were all very similar to me as well, same kind of school, same kind of backgrounds. So working in hospitality, I met, as we said, such a diverse group of people. And I thought that was really, really important to changing maybe the way I thought about certain people, certain stereotypes that I see a lot in the locals about certain cultures, nationalities, religions, or whatever. Say like, no, you're wrong
Yes,
because,
we passed from there, and I started realizing even more when I was the foreigner.
yeah,
Now I want you to go in a more spicy thing.
okay. Uh-oh.
What about secret, not secret, when you see colleagues
Mm-hmm.
that they are coming to you and they say that, oh, I have something with this person, or I have stuff with this person.
Okay, HR is always the last to know.
Is it?
HR is always the last to know.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought the opposite, like
never.
rumors and then the HR
Okay,
to go
so
and speak.
never has anyone ever come to tell me like, hey, I just want you to know I'm in a workplace relationship with this person.
Oh, okay.
So absolutely correct. It is normally observation because you notice, especially if it's a small team like ours, we know the people. Or I tend to be told eventually, but by others, not by not by the persons in the relationship themselves. Um, Workplace relationships can be a little bit complex.
Nowadays it's acceptable. Before it was
Absolutely.
not, right? I
Um,
remember that you couldn't bring not even a sibling to work with you.
Yes, okay. Yes, I do remember that a very long time ago. However, in an industry like ours, I think that workplace relationships are impossible to avoid. It's impossible to avoid. What is important to ensure is that the relationship doesn't interfere with the professionalism at the workplace. So, for instance, it is less ideal if they're in the same department, although we wouldn't ask them to change department, of course. But it's less ideal because, let's say, if you have a couple, they had an argument before coming to work, and then they have to come and do a
Hap-
shift together. That is less ideal.
Happen. I had colleagues that they were not talking for days, and they were working in the same bar.
Oh gosh.
Someone had to be always in the middle just to
Just
make
the
sure.
like damage control. So it's less ideal. You can't stop it from happening. I mean,
We are
and
quite extrovert at
we are, and
hospitality.
apart from being extroverted, we do work very unsocial hours, so we tend to socialize a lot together. People working in hospitality, especially in the operations, they tend to be younger. Again, they tend to be international, so they are meeting people, they are making friends at work. And it is almost impossible to stop it from happening. And the more, as you know, we were all teenagers once, the more you tell people you can't do something, the more they're going to do it. So, the
You have a
professionalism is-
pool of people, so you have to choose from there.
you have to choose from the pool. No, again, as I said, as long as it is conducted professionally and doesn't interfere with the colleagues around them or on the level of quality of service itself, good luck to them. We're very happy for our colleagues who are in relationships.
Make sure that it's flirting and it's not sexual harassment, please.
Yes, this is really important.
We need to put some limits.
We
No,
need to put
no
some
is no.
No, absolutely. I would always advise caution on, ensuring that, okay, flirting is, okay, unavoidable, I suppose, at the workplace. I'm not sure how we could police that. But remember, sexual harassment is unwanted and unwelcome. So if your colleague doesn't like it, you stop because it's sexual harassment otherwise.
And this has to come also, again, small parenthesis
Yeah.
about the sexual harassment, please. It's not only the people that they are involved, but also the
The
people
people around them. In fact, yes, it could be a case that you have two colleagues who are really maybe being a bit inappropriate with their language, because even their language, of course, it doesn't have to be something physical, and make people around you uncomfortable. So, I mean, be respectful, be professional at work, guys. Please do whatever you want. I always tell them, do whatever you want, but do it outside the hotel's doors, please. Off your shift and outside the hotel's doors, and then it's not my problem anymore.
So let's move.
But I met my husband at work.
Ah,
Yeah?
yes?
Oh, yes.
You were behaving?
Yes. We never even had a coffee break together,
I
actually.
hope one day to invite him so he will tell us his part of the story.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to take you now to the last chapter of our meeting,
Uh-huh.
uh, the technology.
Oh no.
Yes. But I want to see it from the HR part,
Mm-hmm.
HR point of view,
Mm-hmm.
because I had some guests that they told me that they are not happy with the new technology, AI,
Mm-hmm.
because people are getting lazy.
Oh,
What is
I
your
so okay. I am really the worst person to ask about technology, as you know very well. That I am often the problem, not the technology.
not the
I'm like
solution?
note lady. um, Something I really love about our colleague, who's helping me at the moment, George. He, he's a young guy. He's very, very young. The way he uses technology and the way that he uses AI, it blows my mind. And I would never say he's doing it to be lazy. He's being so creative in his use of AI. But a problem that would have taken me 2 hours working on myself with the, little bit of experience that I have, he's found a way to run it through AI and give me solutions that I can at least work with. It can trigger the thought process to go further at least.
So HR supporting technology.
Of course.
I would like to thank you for coming today.
Thank you. It was
Uh,
really fun. Thank you.
I'm happy you enjoy, and I'm happy that you shared your ideas, your thoughts, and your knowledge.
Thank you.
And please, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, put it in our comments. Michela will be happy to answer
Sure.
if needs so. Perfect. So, see you next week. Don't forget, we are on Spotify, we are on YouTube, we have our own website, hotelierwithaccent.com, that you can have everything in there. And see you next Tuesday, 9 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.